Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Father Tim Daly of the Basilica of St. Paul will be doing the invocation.
Lord our God, we give you thanks for this night. Lord, help us to have the wisdom as we make decisions tonight, so that we do the best for the common good of the city of Port Orange. We ask you to bless this council and its members. Bless all the citizens, especially the children, as we give you thanks for the new park that was opened and such joy we've had in the recent days. We ask you to bless us, bless this meeting, that we can continue to do your will. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Councilman Fremont.
Here.
Councilman Bassett. Councilman Stiltner.
Here.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Here.
Mayor Burnett.
Here. Consent agenda items. Public comment? There being none, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Stiltner and a second from Vice Mayor Ford to approve the balance of the consent agenda, items 6 through 10. Call the roll.
Councilman Fremont.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 4-0. Item 11, Port Orange Community Trust.
Yeah.
What do you think I was? I wasn't fibbing.
Might make it home for dinner.
I know. They went out for dinner without me tonight. Okay, so I'm Jennifer Morano with Port Orange Community Trust. I do have some of my board here. We were here in, I think, January, and we told you that we were planning some new things for the year. We had given away $50,000 in 2016, and we told you also that we were on $1 million mission for this year, and I'm happy to report that we reached our million. So we came back. So over the past 22 or so years, we have gotten to the point where we have given away $1 million in cash. It's not only this board, but all the boards prior, all the volunteers prior, all the sponsors. If you bought a Carnival Mega Pass, you contributed to this. If you were a vendor, you contributed to this.
You contributed all that in the year of Port Orange 150.
Yes, that's right. So it's good all around.
What a way to help us celebrate.
Yeah, and I just wanted to thank City Council and the 4 main departments that help us all the time are Parks and Rec. Sue and her team are incredible. And every time I show up in their office, they must be going, oh my God, she's here again. What does she want? But they bend over backwards for us. They're wonderful. Chief Grimaldi was great this year. Fire and Rescue, Public Works, they all help us. Huh? Everybody was great, but this year was just better because we had so much going on. And everything was so last minute, and I was driving everybody crazy. So here we are. So it was a really good year for us.
How did the new Carnival configuration work out?
Wonderful. We were able to double our gross this year.
Wow.
Putting it, yeah, it was too disconnected the way it was. But
It really
FPL
was.
came out and helped, and that was another. I think I called 5 weeks out. We made that change, so that was a good thing.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And that's
Well, that was
all
easy.
I have to say. That's it.
Gentlemen, any questions?
No question, just my compliments as always.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for what you do.
And you are welcome.
You guys
love
really
it.
do an amazing job for the community. The community, the trust itself is a true treasure for Port Orange. And I've actually very recently had another elected official for another city, which will remain nameless, say, how does that get started? How does that happen? And to think back 22 years ago,
Process.
Yeah,
how it
I
got
mean-
started and how small and what it's grown to today, is amazing.
Just the past couple years.
It really is a treasure to have that in the community.
Well, we're all
What
of
you
us.
guys
I can
do.
speak for all of us and say that we're very honored to be part of the organization. It is an honor to be a part of it.
You birthed the $1 million baby this year.
We did.
So but I got to admit that you had some kind of halo hanging overhead because it was family days this year. It rained everywhere.
But here-
everywhere but.
I know. Everybody kept saying, "Oh, we're gonna have to shut it down. It's coming. It's coming." And it never came. It came at what I think 6:40
Yeah.
Sunday night, and we closed at 7. So
John's in charge of weather, right?
He likes to think so. He'll
No,
take
what I
credit
was-
for that.
What I was telling people is that Debbie at the chamber gets the blame if it rains, and the council gets the credit if it's sunny.
There you go.
I don't think she liked that so much. That's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Thank you guys, all of you.
Citizen participation on agenda, Wendell De La Rosa.
Yep, my name is Wendell De La Rosa. I've had some encounters with the Port Orange Police Department in the recent 6-8 months, a year. I have better things to do with my life, and I think the city has better things to do with their time, energy, effort, resources, etc. My request is to meet in private with the city manager, the deputy city manager, police chief, one-on-one, and have a meeting if they so desire. If not, I continue to press my my participation and my concerns to the city. But for lack of a better words, and I don't want to take this in a threatening manner, it's a metaphor, but I'd like to bury the hatchet and live towards the future, not towards the past. So, sincerely, I leave that with you. I leave that with the city manager and the chief of police and the deputy manager.
Thank you. Council comments, we'll start with you, Scott.
I wanted to bring something to the council's attention that we talked about last year. I think we've been talking about for a couple of years, and unfortunately it's something that has come to light again that I think we're going to have to continue discussing, but now I really think we're truly going to have to look at this thing at a different level, and it's our ambulance service for our residents. If you haven't already done so, I want to again encourage you to sit down and have a one-on-one with the fire chief. We've had several recent incidents that are very concerning in terms of response times and availability. Well, two different things, by the way, that I've learned. First of all, let me just say that the whole process is far more complex and convoluted than even I thought it was, and I thought I had a pretty good grasp on it. It's even more complex than what I thought it was. And so when we talk about availability and response, I would encourage you to know that those are not the same things all the time. So there's been several incidents, and what I would have liked to have thought were the unusual is becoming more of the norm. That's very, very concerning. So I would encourage you guys, if you haven't had a chance, please sit down with the fire chief. I know he's willing to do that. Let him brief you up on some of these specific incidents, and then also some of the factors as to why some of those things may be occurring. So that's what I wanted to mention to you guys. But so I have met with the fire chief. I've also asked Deb Denny's to sit down with myself and the fire chief, and she did. And we had a great meeting, brought a lot of things to her attention that I don't believe she was aware of. She is now taking those to the county side to look into some of those issues. Interestingly enough, while we were actually meeting with the chief, he was showing us on his computer where he can see where all those available units are. And sure enough, there was a med call that an ambulance wasn't at any of the stationed locations in Port Orange, and one had not been assigned. While we just happened to be sitting there at that very moment in time. So there's some issues there. We need to look at those again. We have had the blessing of South Daytona and New Smyrna, both who have the Plus ambulance program in operation, recently have been able to respond to our city to take care of folks in emergency medical distress and transport them when evac wasn't available. So that's been a great thing that those cities have had those available. Like if they weren't there, no telling how long those responses would have been. The other thing I want to ask you to take a really good look at is what the general Plus program protocol looks like with the county, because there's a particular part of that I really think needs to be discussed, and that is closest unit response. In the fire as well as police services, I don't know that anybody I've ever talked to has ever thought of the closest unit not being the one that naturally responds to an emergency. I mean, that just to me makes good common logical sense. That's how you're going to do it, right? That's just not how this works. there's a protocol in place where there's this 10-minute window. So even though you may have an ambulance, a city ambulance nearby, literally could be blocks away, by the protocol, the county is going to get a 10-minute window to get a unit available to start the response. So on top of that, you could still add a response time, and that's just not going to work. So as we look at this and have
Why
some
should I
discussions.
pay extra tax dollars to have an ambulance sit there idle?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and so that's kind of, I think, some of the discussion that we're going to have, whether we revisit this back in a workshop in the near future, or how we go with this once I know that all the council has had a chance to sit down and talk to the chief, because that's going to be my hang up.
Okay.
If we end up doing like South Daytona, New Smyrna, and many other cities have had to come to terms with, to say our residents have got to have better response, and if we have to interject ourselves into that and fund that, then I will only want to do that if we can assure that it's closest unit response. Because if there's an ambulance stationed in our city and there's a medical emergency, I'm going to have a hard time swallowing it not going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's just not
the
gonna fly.
problem is, which, you know, what has made me hesitant to make a major investment, and we're talking about somewhere around $1 million to really fully fund it. The beginning, and it may go higher, is that we have no control of our ambulance. There is some under the plus, but not enough. And the concern I have is always been, I've always felt that our fire department is medically oriented, and it is now, what, about 90% of their work, 95%? And it's foolish that they not transport, but it is in fact a county function, and the county has told me, I've talked to them specifically, that they're going to continue to run it. And if you get an ambulance, you will follow our dictates. And they were very adamant about it.
Yeah, and I think that those are some discussions that are going to have to be held
We should
with
have
our
that,
other
yes.
elected officials around the county, as well as, and those are points to keep in mind, Bob. But I will tell you that I think that there may be some opportunities there to restructure these types of agreements to better organize the ambulance response countywide. Quite honestly, the way the coverage is now, they're short. They're just short. And so whether the residents fund it through additional ambulances through county tax dollars or through direct city tax dollars to get more and closer services, I think there may be a point where we look at that and say, well, maybe bringing one in-house and starting that ability ourselves may be more efficient with the dollars.
Scott, what I was
So we just got to look at it, you know.
What I was going to ask you to do anyways, because I knew that you had met with Councilwoman Denny's, before we're in fact gathering mode as a council, it would not behoove us to have another conversation at a workshop until we continue to do that. But I would like you to, if you don't mind, have the same meeting with Councilwoman Wheeler and talk to Billy along the same lines, because I don't think that we've done a good enough job, and I will also bring it up at the council roundtable of elected officials at the county level. I don't think that we've done a good enough job of holding our county officials accountable so that they can turn around and do that with the system. I'm not sure that since the county took over EVAC that the system has grown, but I know our population has. But I would like to involve them and let them do what they're supposed to do first and foremost, and see what results we net from that, so that we can better do an assessment as to what we need to do at a city level. If you don't mind doing that, and I'll certainly.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Just for the record, Mayor, I have, that last update from the chiefs did concern me, and I know we know what my position was last time. I'm willing to open up the discussion again. Certainly, I would be willing to sit down with the chief. I've also spoken with Deb Denny's, I've spoken with County Councilwoman Wheeler and Ed Kelly, Chair, and expressed my disappointments, because as to where my position was, you know, if it's not following through, then I'm apt to change it. But I have the same hang-ups as, you know, there's a lot of questions I want answered in
Even
terms
if we
of.
run a plus program, those problems still exist at the county level.
Well, that's what I think. I want something that's gonna solve the problem and not just, throw money at it, just to say, well, we're doing something, we can feel better about ourselves, but it's not fixing the problem. So, the conversations to be had for the restructuring of it, is definitely worthwhile of having. So, appreciate Scott bringing that up, and I'm open to have that discussion.
And I have asked the city manager and the chief to please continue to inform us when these events are occurring and there's no ambulances to respond, or we're having very lengthy responses, and they will start doing those as best they can. Those things have to kind of occur because they hear them and they know about them, because of the tracking process, and the data is all in the county hands. So, and getting some of that stuff doesn't come to us in the forms that we would probably like to see it, to be able to easily digest some of that stuff. And that's another issue that I spoke with Councilwoman Denny's about, to say, hey, look, we really want to be able to see certain things, you know, average response times, total responses, how many times was a emergency medical call given out and an ambulance wasn't available
Or where
within
were
the
they
city or
dispatched
whatever.
from?
So,
Sure.
exactly.
Well, when we get to the talk of restructuring, I'll tell you, to my knowledge, if I recall correctly, there are 2 cities in the area that did do the PLUS program and dropped out of it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely curious to know those reasons, and to see if those can be
I
resolved.
think when you hear those reasons, you'll be very more interested into why they did that.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not for the reasons I thought. So, yeah, I would encourage you to have those discussions.
I can't remember which cities they were. Do you recall?
Daytona?
I know Daytona, it doesn't do it anymore, but I'm not sure of a second. I know Ponce is doing it, New Smyrna's doing it, Edgewater's doing it, and South Daytona's doing it on this end of the county. I'm not really aware of.
New Smyrna has mixed feelings right now. They're not sure what they want to do.
And they haven't been doing it a long time, so
No.
we can
Yeah.
monitor the
Yeah.
data, they'll share
Yeah.
with us. What else you got, Scott?
That's it. I was just going to compliment real quick our city staff. What an excellent job with the opening of Riverwalk. I was telling the city manager the night before the meeting, I could not believe how many great compliments that I've received from residents that showed up. The turnout was really, really impressive.
That was
for
terrific.
for a first time event down there, and it was all good weather, nice breeze, great band. Looked like everybody was having a great time.
This time we will give the Chamber of Commerce the credit for
Yeah,
that.
really good mix of residents too.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Yes.
what I mean? So that
Yes.
was really, really nice to see. So great job by the city staff for that.
Yep.
That it?
That's it.
Bob?
Yeah, I'm going to follow up on the comments about Riverwalk. It was exciting. The people down along, the businesses, community in particular, are very excited about it, because Riverwalk was developed as a impetus to start the rebuilding of the Ridgewood corridor. And clearly, the people at the event felt that that could be accomplished with the impetus of Riverwalk. However, what we need to do is not drop the ball. Number one, we need to complete the Riverwalk to Dunlawton. And I think that's about 1.8 million we need to find to do that.
Riverwalk.
To complete Riverwalk from the edge.
Pardon me 1 second.
Yeah.
Can we shut that door, please?
So to complete, what we need to do is complete our Riverwalk up to Dunlawton, so we keep the pressure going. Second thing we need to do is we need to have our economic development people sit down with the landowners, and we own the bulk of the land between Ocean Avenue and Dunlawton, and begin to talk about how we're going to get that land back in play for various uses. I know that it's possible there's a number of what I call blocking lots there, where people have bought little pieces in between city pieces and the like. We need to start working on seeing how we can put together larger pieces of property. And it may demand at this time some money. If they're willing to sell at a reasonable price, we can put together larger blocks of property and then begin to seek clients. We're talking about restaurants, We're talking about, you know, things as pedestrian as ice cream things, maybe boutique hotels.
Mixed use.
A whole mixed use there along the Riverwalk, because I think once the walk is in, that will be the impetus for other groups to come in and start to invest in that. So I urge the council to make it a priority that we continue and move forward with all due diligence to complete the Riverwalk, and second, to get deeply into pushing economic development in that area and selling the land to developers. So that's my thought on that, because it is exciting, and I think if we keep up the good feeling, we'll be able to really help Ridgewood attain the status it should.
And just to follow up on that real quick, I can't imagine any business owners down in that area that saw that over the weekend just weren't thrilled to death.
They were thrilled to death, I'll tell you.
That was really
Yes.
great.
Anything else?
No.
Jason?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't mind requesting a workshop on Riverwalk and where to go from here as far as what the blank slate is gonna be over there, because I can't tell you how many questions I had was, hey, what's gonna happen over there? What are y'all gonna do over there? So, you know, if this is an opportunity to start going to the drawing board, you know, this is the time's now to do that.
I don't think that that's a bad idea. I was gonna suggest, though, that maybe, Jake, tell me what you think here in a second, but I'd like to give staff a little bit of time with that. Maybe at the beginning of the year sometime, as we start to have our talk and workshop about our goals for 2018 and the like, and maybe we can incorporate that. What do you think, Jake?
I believe I've discussed with you all one-on-one what's in the making, and it kind of echoes what everybody said. I also mentioned that when the city goes forth and tries to buy land, that we ought to be pretty smart about how, when, and with who we do it. And that by the city announcing that it's possibly buying land, that the price of that land goes up. So I ask that we use caution. Maybe we don't press ahead with a workshop so soon, and that you give staff an opportunity to work with developers to come up with some options, none of which are binding, but options that we can then bring to you in about 5 or 6 months probably time, that will give you a clear picture of what could be done, and then provide a little guidance that will give the developers or the city, if that's one of the options, whether we want to go up with a full-up design and press on or not. But
That takes us to the end of spring, and I think that's plenty of time.
we just need to be careful moving forward. And as I've talked to most of you about kind of how the dominoes fall, you know, there's some things happening up in Williamson. There's some things happening out west. You all understand that I've had conversations with landowners here in the city, and there's also a competing priority. I don't want you to use the same pot of money to buy land in 3 different locations when we only have 1 pot of money. So we're going to have to weigh those options too moving forward. I believe, and staff believes that corner is the next domino, if you will. But it's council's decision ultimately. So we'll play that whole thing out. I think I need 5 to 6 months to get there.
One of the reasons I brought it up today is there are tremendous competing priorities. And, you know, at least my opinion is that this is #1 priority for the city. Let's finish it. We've been, 20 some odd years now working on it? It's time to finish it up. And now that we have momentum, let's continue it. I understand there are other priorities, there are other interests, the Karasi properties and the like, but I think that with the current momentum and with the current effort to get Ridgewood upgraded And the things that this can push in there, I think it should have a priority before the other competing interests. Karasi, for example. Not opposed to Karasi, but I don't want to see us stopping Riverwalk to get involved in Karasi. And I understand how hard it is, given our current finances, to do both at the same time. So that's one of the reasons I brought it tonight.
I think we can do more than one thing at a time. Jake, just keep us up to date, okay?
Sure will.
Thank you.
One other thing, we've committed as a council to our the First Step program, I believe, in Daytona, our homeless shelter. We've also discussed in the past sending in a representation. We talked about myself representing us. Whether that's still on go or somebody, I think they're starting to get a move on it. I think we need to have some representation at the table. At least I'd like to make sure that Port Orange is getting the biggest bang for the buck if we're going to be participating in that. So I'm just wondering how we want to proceed as a council.
I'll go back and look at the record, but I think you were nominated. And
You were
I think
nominated.
We did have I saw an email to you, CC me, from Dr. Name escapes me right now.
Dr. Durham?
Durham, inviting you, so I'll flip that email back to you. I didn't check the email address, so it might have gone to the wrong email address.
Yeah,
But
no.
he's
Yeah.
the executive director, and you have been you haven't been approved yet, but you got to go there to get approved.
Yeah, all right.
So we'll get you the schedule.
All right, very good. And again, compliments to the staff. Incredible event this past weekend. Everybody all on board. As soon as I walked in, I think I ran into Scott right away, and we just saw that stage. What an incredible setup! It was a built-in stage. It was just a first-class top shelf from the top down. So, congratulations to the staff. It's just a very well done, very well put together event. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Jake, I tell you, I was slightly overwhelmed with the crowd that was there. There had to be 2,000, 2,500 people there.
Tears? No,
Tears?
not quite.
Tears of joy, maybe?
Yeah, it was a good time.
It was a fantastic time. It was great seeing the event lawn used the way it was.
Susan, stand up, would you? Parks and Rec and the entire staff and the community development guys, Dick Colby, spent, I didn't pay him for all the hours he spent out there making sure everybody got you what you needed. Public Utilities connected two or three water lines to make sure that the splash pad was splashing. And I went to Rotary today and saw a little kid trounce around in there, and it was the greatest thing. So everybody's saying it's a better splash pad than All Children. So for now, anyhow, it's new.
Definitely an
So-
interesting splash pad.
One other thing, this is way late in the development, I should have seen that playground beforehand. There's no stairs to get up on that slide on the playground. My boy couldn't climb up. It's just a ladder. Anything to be done about that?
Yeah, we'll send your son to a different park.
He likes that.
That's all I got.
I should have looked at that sooner.
BYOS.
He couldn't
Learn
get on
your
the
own
slide.
steps.
I'll make adjustments.
We'll,
That's fine.
so
I'll teach him to climb the ladder.
we'll also take that into consideration when we upgrade the rest of our parks, which I know we're doing playground stuff.
Absolutely. Along those lines, when I read the proclamation declaring the park open on Saturday, I also declared that the area in the city known as Ridgewood Avenue, all the way east within the city limits, is now known as the River District, which means Councilman Ford no longer represents the east side of the city. He's the councilman of the River District. So from now on, we will refer to that area as the River District, as we should.
Good deal.
Scott, thank you for taking the lead on the EVAC issue. Appreciate it, and keep us up to date. How you doing on that? And Jake, just
Yeah, you all, not all of you. Does anybody have any comments on the raised area in the corner of the park?
Yes.
What are your comments there, Councilman Stiltner?
So I know that there was, or is, a different design plan for what ultimately goes there. But I gotta tell you, when I pulled in, and you could see the band up there and the sign, I think we need to rethink that, because it kind of, I know by accident, but what a great stage location and feature to have, whether you've got a band up there or you've got speakers up there, or whatever's going on up there. And I don't know that we want to lose any of the space, because it's about the right size,
Yeah.
which we all saw when we went up there, right? But I think if we did put something up there, I know the plans I think is like an iconic statue type thing, but I think if that goes up there, we're going to lose the availability to
Maybe
do
that
that.
belongs somewhere else now.
And what a great view and visual that was, not to mention the sound quality across the whole venue was really, really good. And you know, sometimes you go to an outdoor venue and it's okay. I was really impressed with how good it was.
Couldn't agree more with
So-
you, Scott. I had that conversation privately, I believe, with the city manager and assistant city manager. That was the first thing I saw as well. No reason to put anything up there. I mean, it's a perfect built-in stage. You don't have to pay to bring in the stage, because you got that right there. You don't lose the backdrop. I mean, it's first class. My family and I went and took pictures there Thursday in the Riverwalk, and we got up on that area. I couldn't imagine there being a structure in there. It's really, I fully support moving that to a different location.
I certainly thought standing on the backside of that was a perfect spot to watch the fireworks.
The statue shouldn't go up there, but I do caution people about the stage. Those of us who've lived along the river, there will be many a day when you'll be in half flight. When that wind is howling, we at some point in the future will have to figure out a way how to keep it the way it is, really nice, and yet be able to provide from time to time a windbreak, because it gets pretty windy up there.
You're outdoors.
Yes.
Item 13, report from Kemper Sports on Cypress Head Golf.
Good evening, Mr. City Manager, members of the council, Mr. Mayor. Bob Duquette, Cypress Head General Manager. Following report is operational for the month of September in 2017. Our overall golf revenues for September finished at $76,042 versus a budget amount of $73,236. Range revenue was $24,33, and our merchandise sales were $643 over our projected amounts. Payroll for the month, savings of $4,350. Most of this was as a result of monitoring our labor costs during the course of the closed days in September. Our operating expenses finished at $43,746 versus a budget amount of $36,593, and most of that was regarding in terms of costs for fuel, repair costs of some of the machinery, and the purchase of some really much needed T markers, which had all pretty much disintegrated. The rains, of course, September we had Hurricane Irma, 8 inches of rain, Category 3 force winds. So we were closed for 5 days, as well as 4 days of cart path only restrictions to avoid damaging any of the turf. And that certainly reduced a little bit of the amount of players and rounds due to the older population who do not like limited access. The month of September is actually the final month in our fiscal year for 2016-2017, and our budget, revenue budget was ahead by $39,765. Our payroll year to date was under the projected budget by $23,480, and our expenses were over budget by $26,950. So during the year, we basically tried to monitor our labor costs to help offset any increases that we had in our operational. And the good news is on the fiscal, the year ended on September 30th with a $41,301 gain over our 2017 budget. So very happy about that. September 1st, we opened, took over operations for the new tavern restaurant with one of the local community persons, Don Burke, who's been really instrumental organizing all of our food and beverage staff and offering a variety of menu. The unfortunate thing was we opened on September 1st and we had Hurricane Irma, and that closed the property for 5 days, so the revenues certainly weren't realized in terms of the restaurant aspect itself. Regarding our T-sheet, we had 29 total rounds for the month, 2290 paid rounds, 471 annual rounds with Cypress Pass, and 168 other rounds. We had 2857 18-hole rounds and 541 9-hole rounds. Of course, due to the hurricane, we had a lot of damage, debris that was spread out over the golf course. So I really want to thank our maintenance team for a great job they did in getting the course back to open within that period of time. We were one of the few in the local area that was able to open and have great conditions. Merchandise comes into the golf shop on a regular basis. We had $391 in gift card sales and $4,700 in pro shop sales. Also, we started the Cypress Head passes, which were made available for sales and renewals during the past month, and that'll be going towards our 2017-2018 fiscal year. Ms. Reggie Hunter, who you probably all know, she's our Director of Sales and Marketing. We've been focusing on booking a lot of tournament events. You probably have heard it. We've had a lot of events almost on every Saturday over the course of October and November. But we also won the Best of the Best, along with the best golf course in Volusia County and the best golf shop in Volusia County. So we're proud of all that. The reports that we do for Mindshare, we send out 300 questionnaires during the month of September, and our overall golf course received a rating of 8.7, and our recommended rating of 8.7, and our service rating at 9.4. Since this was the end of the year, we also did a yearly total report summary, and from October 2016 to September 2017, we had 341 questionnaires returned. We received a golf course rating of 9.0, recommended rating of 9.2, and our service rating of 9.4. So again, I congratulate our entire team for making things happen at Cypress Head. We've been excited about the reopening for the new tavern and restaurant. We've been able to serve the needs of our community as well as our golfers. And we've been able to book a lot of parties right now for the banquet facility, and especially for the month of December, it's booked in pretty heavily right now. So we're excited about all that. As you probably well know, Cypress Head is celebrating its 25th year anniversary, opened in 1992. I was not here, but I'm proud to present. We have some of the merchandise that we have on in the pro shop, which are going to be established in 1992 Cypress Head. So I have some hats for the members of the council. You're going to have to fight over what colors you do have. So Mayor, I'll give you first choice.
Thank you for my hats. I appreciate it.
Got one for every day there, Mayor.
I do.
Christmas gifts for all.
So you'll have to figure that out. That's my report. If you have any questions, and also Don Burke, our restaurant manager, is also here. If you have any questions with him as well.
Council comments, questions?
No
Thank you.
questions, but just a compliment. You know, I get a lot of compliments on you personally, and how well you run you're running the golf course over there. So
Thank you.
very good.
We're all working pretty hard.
Yeah.
But it's a joy. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for a great year.
Thank you.
Item 14, Parks and Rec Board.
You don't want to listen, Susan?
She's afraid you're going to ask her to stand up.
I'm really
again.
interested, Jack, in what you got to say now.
Yeah, right. Must not be that important. Jack Wiles, Parks and Recreation Board. We met on October 17th at 5:03. We held our meeting and ended at 6:30. First of all, just real quick comment. I know the grand opening of Riverwalk this weekend. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. I was in Fort Lauderdale at a boat show, but it sounded like it was a great event and turned out really well. So I appreciate all that Susan and her staff
It's a
did.
great location for future boat shows.
Yeah, hey, good point. Good idea. We had several people that came to the board to make presentations. Cameron McClellan from Spruce Creek High School made a waiver request for tournaments that would be held in the near future, and he asked for a reduction in fee of $700, which I think he came that night and you guys approved that, but we concurred with it. Libby Wiggins from the Stallions came and approved or requested a renewal of her co-sponsored, I guess her co-sponsored agreement with the city of Port Orange. Normally they, our co-sponsor fee is $4,000. They only use the fields for 6 months, so it was $2,000. Last year we waived the fee. This year she's going to pay the fee. So some of the things that they do, she explained. We asked, I think last year, some of the things that she did for us to waive the fee, and they gave to the community quite a bit. This year she explained that they help families through football. Some of those activities include school supplies, counseling for those who are a danger to themselves. She also helps with the bands at Atlantic High School and Silver Sands, her group does. The board approved their renewal request and organization of paying the co-sponsored fee of $2,000 for the 6 months. Debbie Connors and Sean came from the Port Orange South Daytona Chamber of Commerce in conjunction with the Rotary Club and requested our recommendation for approval for, at least recommendation of approval to the council for the first annual River Fest at River Walk. The event would take place starting on May 4th and ending May 6th. They advised it would assist in trying to bring back some vitality to the US 1 corridor. They're scheduling a 5K, paddleboard races, lots of other activities that will go on throughout the weekend. The board concurred with the utilization of the land at no charge and recommends the Chamber and Rotary Club pick up the tab for the actual out-of-pocket expenses for the staff and cleanup. We said we would make that recommendation to council. Everyone was excited about the upcoming reoccurring event. Hopefully this will be the first annual, but it'll be reoccurring. The board discussed briefly, and due to time constraints, our commitment to bring forward plans for the community center. Sounds like we've got a lot of activities we're trying to get going, but the community center is something we've been talking about for a while now. And our goal, as I mentioned last time, is to bring our vision forward to council of what a community center would entail, such as location, size, activities, approximate cost, some funding mechanisms to council within the next 3 to 6 months. We ran out of time, so we didn't have the opportunity really to discuss in much detail those items, but we're trying to put together either a special meeting or at our next meeting we'll dedicate and devote most of the meeting to that. And we'll bring that to you hopefully sometime within, like I say, the next 3 to 6 months. But that's our primary focus right now. And that's the end of the report.
Gentlemen, questions?
Chuck, I wanted to remind you, I can't remember which board member it was, but when we met upstairs the last time for that workshop, I had asked that the board look for some community centers that are already up and running that are similar to what the board has in mind, maybe in a community similar to ours, so that we can kind of maybe do a field trip or and so anyway, just I'm not asking if they found them yet, but just kind of keep that in mind if some folks could be looking for those places, because I'd really like to do a site visit if we can find a couple of them so I can kind of grasp exactly what we're looking at.
We'll locate a couple for us to visit, and some of the board members have done that.
Okay, great.
But also what we ask is that each board member would come back with at least 5 items that they would like to see in the community center, and we'll compare that to the other ones.
Okay.
So every board member will bring back 5. We'll see which ones are the top 1 or 2 or 3 that bubble up to the top, and then decide, maybe what it should look like, and that'll be part of our presentation, and we'll hopefully find 1 or 2 that resembles that. And once we do, then we can go visit those.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I had a visit from the soccer league, and I probably should sit down and talk with you and the board. To bring me up to speed.
Sure.
About partnerships and soccer fields and the like. I guess we have more events than we have fields, or at least quality fields. The other issue that came up, I was up on I guess Reichel Road. The fields there look pretty rough.
Okay.
If any advice on what we need to do to, it's a nice location. They're certainly large fields. What can we do to bring them up to standards?
That's South Winds, Jack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
South Winds.
Yeah, we've worked on those several times. I think that's an old, if I'm not mistaken, you can tell
It's an old dump.
It's an old dump, and what happens is we keep resurfacing that field, and the more wear and tear it gets on it, and they're used quite a bit, all that starts bubbling back up.
Yeah.
And it's a whole process all over again. It's probably not the best location for a field that's highly used like that, but it's what we have.
Yeah.
And we just have to keep, redoing the fields.
The fields here are also over there.
Well, that's true.
That's an old
They're
dump.
very-
So that field was redone last, the same time this field up in
Right.
City Center was done, and you can see the difference due to usage. We rotate the City Center field a lot more than we rotate the South Winds. South Winds gets, some people say used, some people say abused.
Right.
The other thing that I think you're aware of, Jack, but I'll say to council, is that our current, this is interesting, our current partnership is with Port Orange, Florida Elite. So that is currently who the city is partnered with until January. And I have the names of that board if you're interested, just to be clear.
Now, is there a different group other than the Port Orange League? Just
The
asking?
Port Orange, as I understand it, and again, I met with them. They asked to, because I had worked with them on getting the fields originally for soccer.
The old group.
Yeah. And they are merging with a soccer league out of Jacksonville.
Correct.
They'll continue to be Port Orange based in terms of the soccer teams, but they're going to be part of a larger body, and they're hopefully going to be able to provide more resources because of the group they're becoming part of. So
What,
it's something we have to see what's going on there exactly and what its implications are for us.
probably about 6 months ago, Bob, they came in and they made a presentation to the board.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we told them is that the resources are where they are. The Port Orange League was kind of merging, as you mentioned. We'd like to give them a chance to see how this partnership's going to work before we make any decisions about more fields or more time or land or any opportunity for them.
That's
Just to
good
try it
information.
out. Once they prove themselves, because they've made some commitments, once they prove themselves and all these things come to fruition, then we'd be more open to discuss things with them. One of the things that we did discuss was, and Scott, you were in on this conversation probably a year ago, is we offered up possibly, look, if we could find you land for you to build the fields, you guys are, I mean, they're not necessarily a not-for-profit. They're a kind of a profit organization, which actually they've got 58, 70 highly paid employees. So when you look at it that way, I mean, this is kind of a business for them. So I understand the kids. We want to get them as much exposure as possible at a high level. The problem is, are we dealing for the kids or are we dealing for the business? So until we know all those facts, we made a presentation they made a presentation. We asked that if they would want to run it like a business and they wanted to build a facility through getting monies from other avenues, then we would entertain trying to find a piece of property so they have all the fields they need, and as long as the city could use them.
My concern has always been, I've yet to find any, I've seen a lot of promises of that. I've not seen anybody able to really come up with the money. But
Except for Pop Warner.
Pop Warner.
no, they didn't
Yeah,
build any fields or anything. Or did they
Yes,
build?
they
They
did.
built the whole stadium.
What, how much did they put in?
They put a lot.
Yeah, let's
They're the model. If we have other groups that want to have partnerships,
Baby.
they're the model.
Okay.
now,
I can
now
tell you.
let's-
But the
leave it
question
there.
came up with them is, I have mixed feelings.
Right.
Are we in the business? They also would like to take over and run all of soccer for Port Orange, and they discussed that. And
So I would like to clarify that the Florida Elite Management specifically said that was not what they wanted to get into. So I think what we're seeing here is the old team
Yeah,
still trying to merge. So we met with the Florida Elite, Sean Bubb and
Yeah.
the group there, and you know, they're saying some things contrary to what I'm hearing tonight. So I think we need to straighten that out before we move forward.
Yeah, and we've got, I think it's a little bit of a test of time too. We've got to make sure that everything, you know, falls into place.
Yeah, you got a reinforcement here.
Bobby Ball.
Can I join you real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll speak on behalf of, I think I have 4 hats tonight. I have a soccer club son, I have a Pop Warner son, Parks and Rec board, and I was also the engineer on the redoing of the fields you talked about. Just one distinction there on the South Winds fields. They're very, very, very sandy, and they don't hold the nutrient like other places you have around the city. So that's one of the biggest challenges you have, and not having a rest period really, really impacts that. From a Pop Warner perspective, I think we put in over 200,000. I want to say close to 250,000. Both in
I stand corrected.
in kind.
I'm impressed with that.
I'm just wanted to make sure that you knew what was in front of you. And so there was while we didn't build the field, the grass, we contributed to the stadium seating and what you see out there across the
facilities as well.
And as far as the club goes, they did present to us, and I know one of the concerns that we had, I know we talked about it, was how they are a partner with us, and when we say partner with Port Orange, it's how are you still the Port Orange club as opposed to something from the north coming down. So anyway, just a couple of
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, I'm looking for direction from you all, because
And if it's okay with the council, I mean, we would like to give it some time before we make any recommendations.
I'm in no
or
rush.
decisions.
It's
that's
just
where
brought
we're
to
at.
my attention.
Okay,
And,
good point.
I think the Florida Elite relationship with is up in January, up for discussion renewal in January.
Very good.
What is the, how are the baseball fields doing as far as availability? Are we getting any?
Susan would know better than I right now, but from what I understand, we're not having any problems. We've got.
We're booked, but
We're booked, but I mean,
it's
we're not.
looking good.
Yeah. There's
I
teams
will-
able to practice.
I will tell you, and Jack, we had a meeting with the Daytona Tortugas. They have a foundation, and we started initial conversations about turning the second Lemeron Field into a grass infield baseball field, and we just had the conversation earlier this week. What we'll do is meet with you all, Mike Navarra, the president of the Panthers, and Daytona, and see what's in the realm of possibility to get that field sparkled up, and they're willing to participate financially and with a little bit of elbow grease, get some of the players out there. I don't know how much work Sheldon's going to do, but it sounds like a promising relationship, and just so you know, they've already been to some of our sister cities, so we're now ready to take that, and I think it'll be a great relationship.
I had lunch with Kristen Alford today.
Oh, good,
So-
good, excellent. Yeah, so you know where we sit. All right.
Very good.
Is that it?
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, guys.
Wow. That's it. huh?
Wow, Jack, you brought your.
Jack brought his posse.
Your club. Yeah.
He promised to take them all to dinner.
Second reading of ordinance number 2017-30, an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, rezoning plus or minus 1 acre located at 3518 Nova Road from moderate density multifamily residential, R-3M, to community commercial, CC, authorizing revision of the official zoning atlas and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2017-30.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Second reading. Any comments, council?
No comment.
Anybody else like to speak to this? There being none, call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Stover.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 4-0. City attorney comments?
2 items to bring to your attention tonight. The first has to do with your public utilities department. We have a request from a homeowner in the Ponce Inlet community where we do provide sewer service, and the request is to provide a grinder pump agreement in order to allow this property to develop without a septic tank. The grinder pump is necessary in order to get the sewage into our collection system. The grinder pump would be maintained by the homeowner. It would be replaced and repaired by the homeowner, installed by the homeowner, and any spillage that could occur would be the responsibility of the homeowner as far as any pollutants. So the grinder agreement has been prepared, and I'm here tonight to ask that the council authorize as an operational function that the manager be allowed to proceed with approval of that agreement.
Is there some logic in giving them authorization to do this as standard operating procedure?
Yes, it is, in order to facilitate the
Because this seems very
reduction
standard.
of septic type systems. As you know, we came to you with all of the septic to sewer program. This is similar in concept, just a different take on being able to keep septic systems from being utilized where it's appropriate. Now, Public Utilities does not foresee a lot of these.
Mhm.
They're not probably the perfect solution, and so I don't anticipate that there will be many agreements. But in the
It
cases
just seems that
where
as
they
a
are
matter of
appropriate,
efficiency, you should have that authority.
the engineers will make a positive recommendation, and I think the manager would be in a position to implement.
May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion authorizing the manager to be able to act on these, was this the grinder pump?
Agreement.
Not just this one, but this, any requests in the future as well? Any other comments, council?
Yeah, I don't understand the technology. It's gonna grind it and then
Push
force
it.
it through a pipe into our system?
Correct.
It's a macerator.
And perhaps
How descriptive
I
do you
have
wanna get?
understated the technology.
I wanna get pretty, my concern is, that, make sure it does not add to the pollution load that we're already suffering, so they are coming into our system,
Correct.
except they're using a grinder. They're not gonna use a regular hookup like we normally do.
Correct. It's not a gravity system.
Okay,
as I understand
because
it.
it's not a gravity system.
Right. Like a miniature-
So
But
they
it is-
basically have
That's
to
how the
pump
engineer-
it.
The option is septic, and so we're
If
willing
it-
to do this over septic.
I like
If it
that.
improves over septic, I'm in favor.
Any other council comments? Anybody else like to speak to this? Call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Stillman.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 4-0. Margaret, you have something else?
One other item, council members, we are processing a lot of your contracts, particularly when we get into piggyback agreements and sole source agreements. Any type of renewal that is part of that original agreement is approved and reviewed by the city manager and the appropriate department staff. There are a few older agreements that were set up for renewals, but not necessarily designating that the city manager would be the authorized person to implement that renewal. Since there are a few, and we do bring those to you individually at this point in time, but I'm asking whether council would be willing to go ahead and just have all of your renewals funneling through the city manager's review and approval.
How does the city manager feel about that? Does that make it more efficient?
It makes it more efficient, and the stuff I'm doing now with renewals that's under my authorization, I'm already doing. This is just taking care of some of the stuff that was back under your cognizance that would now fall under mine if I was doing it, but back in the day when you were signing them. So I'm fine with it.
Let me understand. What we're doing is contract renewal for law firm services, basically.
Say again?
Is that what we're talking about? Contract renewals for law firms that are?
No.
No, these are just, what type of?
All types of contracts.
All contract
For instance,
renewals.
Back in the early 15s, you may have approved a contract at council meeting that said the contract will run for 2 years and shall have renewable options for 1 year for the next 3 years. So we're now starting to see those come forward. When we go back and look to see if you had designated them to be renewable by the manager, it was before we got to that point in time where you were designating certain contracts for the manager's review and implementation. So there's a few out there. We're looking to see if you'd be willing to handle this, I would say, in a uniform fashion rather than some come to council, some go to the manager, and it will, I believe, speed things up.
And with all contracts that, the other day we did a contract for the meters. I could have signed it, but I get that there's a little bit of history there, so I brought it to you for your knowledge. I would do the same thing on these renewals. If a renewal came up that I knew that it was a hot topic or something that interested one or two of you, I would bring it to your attention in a council meeting prior to doing it, just in case there's an uproar that I'm not aware of. But most of these are contracts that have been successfully done for 3 years. We like the current contractor. The price is still right, and it's just a formality that would be on the consent agenda. But I'll take care of it a couple weeks earlier.
Okay. I voted against this originally. I think its council has the responsibility. We were elected to watch. These contracts are a huge amount of money involved, and I think that periodic review of contract renewals and most of them will be approved with no problem on the consent agenda, but I do think the citizens and taxpayers prosper when we are diligent and make sure we check everything going through. And as you know, every so often we do catch something. So I don't feel good about this type of process. I didn't vote for it originally. I'm not going to vote for it this time.
Scott, what are your opinion? Thoughts?
You know, there's definitely some contracts that I guess I probably have more of an interest in seeing, and maybe that has a lot to do with the monetary value of the contract and what exactly is at stake. Probably something I'd like to give a little bit more thought on and maybe have some further discussion with.
Chase?
Yeah, I could take some more time to think. At the same time, I'm kind of leaning toward, ultimately the buck does stop up here. We're responsible for how the people do their jobs. I have great confidence in the city manager, no question about it. So I think in the interest of transparency and the idea of it being, we're the ones that make the calls, that get the blame for if it doesn't go right. I don't mind the formality of going through the consent agenda process.
I, for one, would like to maybe we discuss this when all 5 of us are here. But I'd like to see maybe a process where maybe we try it with something with contracts under a certain size. I certainly think that all our large contracts should be scrutinized no matter what, but we are talking about renewals. And the smaller renewals of a certain size, I think, Jake, you can make a recommendation along this. But let's discuss that when all 5 of us are here.
Good.
Thank you.
So we table the item, or it's not
Not
on the table?
it's just
Okay.
a discussion.
That's it.
City manager comments?
Mayor, council, regarding the Causeway Park area, we released bid number 1725 for repairs of the west pier next to the bathrooms, the T pier, and for the demolition of the east pier underneath where the deck down under and DJ's deck is at Causeway Park from damage sustained during Matthew. The bids came back with 2 bidders. The lowest bidder was Brothers Construction at $707,750 for the west pier, $28,500 to demo the east pier, $309,000 for repairs to the T pier, which brings the total to $1,045,250, including contingency. The total estimated cost is 1.15 mil. We currently have $325,979 in capital for this project. It was a little bit more than that, but we had to take a little bit out for the match for the north boat ramp to match the fine grant. So now for the current project, we have $325,979. We're expecting $250,000 from the fine grant. We just got that phone call today. That's $250,000 for this project. We are getting more. And $309,000 from FEMA. And an additional $51,000 from the state, which is the FEMA match. That leaves a gap of $213,233 for all three piers. I will add that the boat ramps, the south boat ramps, which were technically closed, although everybody was using them, due to the graciousness of one of our contractors here in the area. I'll get his name before the end of the day. I have it, it's just an email. We were able to fix all three of our south boat ramps. We believe at a limited, if no cost, to get them temporarily up, which saves us a little bit of money to get those back in order. So basically with a bogey, we are requesting that you consider approving the use of $300,000 of the $524,000 that's currently appropriated for the City Hall landscape project, Project OMI 030, to begin working on restoring the Causeway Park to its former operations. That is not to say that this project, the city beautification project, goes away. It is to say that we kind of delay it until our FEMA money comes back. So if you agree to that tonight, we can award the bid next Tuesday. If you don't, we have other options such as loan pool until the FEMA money comes back, but either way, we're just doing a shell game of shuffling dollars, and Margaret has something to say.
In order to award that contract, we're gonna have to appropriate the full money. So is that gonna cover our full appropriation?
It will,
Okay, great.
plus unforeseens.
Thank you.
Council questions? We have a motion?
Move to approve the reallocation of city center landscaping to the Causeway.
I'll second that if you add, with the full understanding, we will return someday to look at to fund the other project as well.
And, well, we would,
Understood.
whatever's not used, it would,
Understood.
you know,
We're still waiting on FEMA dollars anyway, so when we get those back, we absolutely need to. We have a motion, we have a second for approval. Any comments, council? Anybody else like to speak to this? There being none, call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Siltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 4-0.
Mayor, also, as indicated earlier, Industrial Riggers Marine LLC assisted the Parks crew in preparing the floating dock on the south side. They were the contractor that was working at Ant Catfishes. Bruce from Parks and Rec went over to Ant Catfishes, got in touch with the contractor, said, can you give us a hand? They agreed by hoisting up the dock so we can replace the floater. We replaced the boardwalk, and all three ramps are now operational. The only work left will be the ADA ramp, which we'll try to get a change order to the Brother contract to repair that.
So we owe them a big thank you.
There is a gentleman from IR Marine, his name was Troy Kuzik, that didn't have to assist us, but helped us out this morning. So I'll have Cindy type up a formal letter of appreciation for the mayor to sign, we'll get it to you there, Mayor
Absolutely.
Burnett, and we'll get it out to them.
Pass our gratitude along to Bruce as well.
I
That's just
sure will.
Great thinking.
I
That's,
sh- I
that's
sure
very
will.
proactive.
Sure will.
That's terrific.
Absolutely,
It's first class.
absolutely.
Anything else?
Last but not least, I went over in detail in an email to you all, the budget changes that would be made. I reiterated that the summer rec program was, we kind of juggled around the budget and found a place for that. The other thing that we're gonna, do is adjust the fee structure to allow, Babe Ruth to remain valid, and everything else in that email that was reduced or a new program that we did away with stands. You will get that budget appropriation and the true up and everything next Tuesday. So absent any questions, I talked to everybody individually, save Councilman Stiltner. We haven't chatted about it, but I've talked to most people about it, and it doesn't sound like you have any major heartburn. So that's what you'll see in the budget appropriation next week. Other than that, sir, nothing.
River to Sea TPO, Drew is absent. General Employees Pension Plan.
Just a couple of quick positive comments for you. On our last meeting, went over the year-end fiscal numbers. The plan saw a fiscal year return of 11.4318%. So pretty good year, which brought the total value, market value of the plan up by about a little over $3 million on the year. Also, we processed out 3 early retirements from some folks who have served the city for a really long time and served us quite well. Debbie Culpepper, Nancy Zuber, and Tom Zuber all were processed out